Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to Let's Make a Model Dark Angels 2.0 Super Combo Edition. I believe it's part 4, and it's been a while. I've been busy, in short. I have another painting project going on that's got more of a deadline to it. And I just been busy with real life stuff, and that of course comes first, so juggling all of that, as we all do, I've been busy. But finally sat down and got some painting done on these bases and got them to the part where I said I would get them to, which is finishing the grayscale on these guys. These are resin cast bases of in an urban setting, and I like that. I like that setting a lot, which is why I'm doing my Dark Angels in an urban rubble setting. The way I do it is a black base coat, and I build grays up over that. So you saw that in the previous video for this series. You saw the bases with the Adeptus Battle Gray dry brush over black, and all I did was build up the grays. I did Codex Gray dry brush over the Adeptus Battle Gray, then over the Codex Gray I dry brushed Fortress Gray, and then over that I dry brushed Astronomicon Gray. You can skip any gray you want. You don't have to use these grays. Any dark gray to light gray system you have of paints will work. You can go as light or as dark as you want in the grayscale. It's up to you. I prefer to look something like this, as you see here, this type of gray. Now, once you do all your grays, if you fail or if you find you that's a feel weird, but if you feel or if you find the gray is too much, maybe you covered most of the black up, but maybe the really light gray is too overpowering for you. What you can do is take a very, and I mean a very light wash of black over it, and what that will do is that'll help get into the recesses and help make the detail parts, it'll darken the recesses and make the base pop overall for the parts that you would dry brush that collect. It's like the edges and the high points will pop more because that dark wash will get into the recesses. But you want it to be a light wash, or else you can pretty much undo everything you just did if it's too heavy of a wash. So you can do that if you feel you've overdone it a little bit. I don't recommend white as the final color because for me it looks like you're trying to do snow or something, and it's just not working too well. But it's your base. You do what you want if you're doing urban rubble. So the next step on these resin cast bases is to pick out the extra details that aren't just going to be that rubbly gray color. Now, resin cast bases tend to be by and large more detail oriented than the standard bases you're going to make for yourself with modeling sand and flock and some bits. These tend to be more detail oriented, as you can see. So there's going to be more stuff to potentially pick out if you wanted to. I'm a minimalistic approach type of person when it comes to bases. I feel bases should be tidy and neat, but they shouldn't be overbearing. They shouldn't be competing with the model on it for attention. I feel they're there to complete the model, but not compete with it. So I'm going to pick out some metallic details here and there. I'm going to do the skull that's on this base and all that jazz, but I'm not going to go over the top with it because, again, I don't want to feel like I'm competing, I should say, with the Dark Angel model, so I'm going to go on top of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the metallic details, and once the base is pretty much done that way, I'm going to edge it. Not everybody edges their bases. Not everybody edges it, but not everybody edges it in the same way, of course. Some people do a pure black color, pure black edge around it. Some people do blues and greens. I like a light tan. I find as long as it's not the exact same color as your base, I mean as your armor color for your models, or whatever color your model is. Like for example, for orcs, I wouldn't do a green edging on the bases because orcs are green. For Space Marines, like the Ultramarines, I wouldn't do a blue edging because they're blue. So it just depends on the dominating color, or if it's split in half, then the colors that dominate the model, like Howling Griffins, yellow and red. You know, do something that isn't going to be too bright and make your eye drawn to it, but isn't also going to be around the same color as your models to make people kind of feel the models, not make them feel, but it'll just look natural, like the models being blended in with the base edges at that point. So that's my suggestion to that, and I usually do a 10. I believe the foundation paint I use is Camry Brown or something similar to that will work. And that would be the next step. When you next see these bases, they'll be fully finished and ready to go. Well, let me correct that a little bit. They'll be fully finished enough. If I put the model on there, I want to do some dry brushing, if I want to do some weathering powder and make the model's feet look like they've been trudging through the urban rubble a bit, get them dusty looking and whatnot, then the bases will get some a little more attention on them, but more so because of the model, not the base itself. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do, and at the same time, I'm going to think about the Dark Angel models I'm going to paint up and figure out which part I want to do first, because I have them partially assembled. So they're in a total of 4 different parts, because I would do the 2 arms together. So they're in a total of 4 different parts that I could start on. And whatever you do, because you're assembly line painting, at least that's the idea I'm going over here is assembly line painting, whatever you plan you commit to, or whatever plan you commit to, stick with it, I guess is the way to say it. So once you commit to that, don't second guess yourself, just stick with it. And sometimes, in things like this, you wanna do the tedious things first. That's what I tend to do. And that's what you're going to probably want to do, get it out of the way so you can enjoy yourself more with the parts that, will be more fun to paint than kind of small tedious bits, like, let's say, the bolters by themselves. But depending upon the size of the squad you're doing, if you're doing the bases first, if you view bases as tedious things, you may want to break it up a bit. Let's say you're doing the bases first and you hate doing bases, so it's very tedious, but you got it done. Well, instead of doing another tedious thing, like let's say 10 bolters, I'm only doing 5 guys, and this is just an example. Instead of doing that, you can work on another piece. Let's say you had the backpack separate, do the backpack, something different, and then jump to the weapons. That way you don't feel tedious too much. Like if you put tedious thing after tedious thing, you may not want to go and paint them because you can be going, ugh, I gotta paint these things, and then, it just hampers your painting productivity. So just keep that in mind when you're figuring out your strategy for assembly line painting. But whatever strategy you pick, stick with it. You can't be jumping around midway through. Assembly line painting doesn't benefit from that. And that's pretty much that. So, on the video for part 5, you'll see these bases done, and whatever part I'm going to paint after this, you'll see at least one example of that with these bases next time around. And that's pretty much it. So hopefully this was a little bit helpful for you. Not much to look at, I know. They're just bases, but bases are important. And if you don't do your bases, get on them. They're going to really make the overall look and finish of your model be that much better. And if you're starting to do new models and you really don't like bases, I highly suggest doing them first. You get them out of the way, it's a sense of accomplishment. You don't have to worry about them at the end, and now you can just paint your models and put them right on top if you paint them separately. Anyways, that's it. So until next time, take it easy.